You may have heard me talk about Wild Health before, the precision medicine service that's transforming healthcare. Well, today I'm excited to share that they also offer multiple education opportunities to train clinicians and aspiring clinicians in genomics based precision medicine. They have two programs, a fellowship and a self guided online course. The fellowship is a 12-month educational program that includes a variety of live experiences, including one on one mentorship, webinars, and hands on training with your own group of practicum patients. The Precision Medicine Fundamentals course provides the same 12-month online curriculum without the live experience to allow a more self paced learning experience. Best of all, both are CME accredited. If you've been looking for continuing education opportunity or thinking about making a career pivot to health, this is an awesome opportunity. Go to wildhealth.com/fellowship to learn more and use my code DrFit20 for 20% off any program. That's DRFIT20 at wildhealth.com/fellowship. P.S. The code works if you want to become a patient too. Welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast with Dr. Jamie Seaman. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Jamie, and welcome back to the Fit and Fabulous podcast. It's so wonderful to have you here. I want to introduce you all to my incredible guest that we have on the podcast today. And we're talking about a topic that we have never discussed before that I think so many of you are going to find valuable. Dr. Liz Jenkins is a licensed marriage family therapist. She's a certified relationship coach. And she has spent more than 70 plus hours of focused time working with couples inside of her coaching programs. And she's very much a trusted expert in identifying a unique path for success in self-love, relationships. We're going to talk today about couples and relationships and why these things fail and solutions for them as well, especially at different stages in life. Because as a women's health specialist, I take care of women all the way from when they're just starting to date, they're getting married, they're having babies, their kids are growing, they go on to menopause and beyond. And I think women suffer from different problems at all those stages in our intimacy and in our relationships. And we are going to talk about all of that. So Dr. Liz Jenkins, welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast.
Thank you. Absolutely. I love where we're going with this journey and this podcast, and appreciate jumping on here with all the other ladies as well.
So give me just some background for our listeners of who you are and what you do, and really honestly how you got here, because I think we all come from kind of this personal space in our life of why we live and work and are passionate about what we're talking about today.
Well, absolutely. I'm very passionate about helping each and every woman and couple really choose wisely, choose well, have the tools, have the tips and techniques so that they can maybe avoid some of the mistakes that I've made in my past, as well as I see my couple struggling for. I don't want anyone to feel like they're somehow they've made a mistake, or the marriage or the relationship is destined for failure. So I've been on the personal side, I've been married. We just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary last month. But professionally, I've been in as a marriage family therapist for 37 plus years. And so I started off with women and women's issues and children's. And I saw how really wonderful women or kids were experiencing the damage or the decline or the stigma of like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? And it isn't something that we've done wrong. Oftentimes we're coming from a place where what we learned was the best someone could share with us, or the best that we could do in that moment, but it's antiquated or it's outdated, or maybe it just wasn't even the right tool or technique or strategy. So that's where I come in. It's like, let's hear your story and let's share with you the bridge, the gap.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's, I guess, talk about this chronologically.
Okay.
I guess that's what makes sense in like my mind. So let's start when people are young and they're looking for a life partner. Let's talk about how people seek out a good life partner, someone, to be married to.
Well, I think that's actually that has evolved too, right? Right now, we're really the avenues for many of us as young people either through school or work or a lot of the online dating. And that really does give us a different perspective on someone when we're spending the texts and online apps. We tend to show up with our hormones blazing and whatever right now, social media or our parents taught us, or even some of our dating, what we saw other people maybe who had an older brother, sister, or friend. And that information it's the best someone could do at the time, but it's not necessarily right for this, the individual. And so I think as young people, we're dating not clearly fully informed or into our own self-esteem or awareness of what's going on and how to get there in a better way. And so the other people that we're dating, they're showing up trying to do their best, typically, right? We want to err on the side of that they're showing up well to the best.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to market yourself. I mean, there's like
yes,
the neurotransmitters in the brain, serotonin is this like social hormone. You want to feel like you're part of the pack, part of the group, you get so much oxytocin from like that, new relationship, kind of feeling. And my husband and I talk about all the time, like, what if we would have met in 2022? Like it is such, and I have three young girls. So I think about this all the time, about them. Like, how do they find somebody like their father? Because I love and adore my husband. We have an incredible marriage, but, you worry about your kids and, who they'll end up with. And this day and age is just, I find, and maybe this is just my perception, but it just seems so superficial, like that the way we were forced to communicate, I feel like it really made us get down into the more deep, meaningful conversations and like finding out, kind of like peeling back the layers of the proverbial onion. But I feel like these days I worry about, people entering relationships and not really understanding, not only who their partner is, but like who they are,
Oh, I agree. I think your concern is well grounded. We have two adult daughters as well. And so we've experienced our form of dating and their form of dating, and, personally. And it's a tough journey. It really is a tough journey.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about why couples grow distant. We get married, things are awesome. I mean, divorce rates, I don't think are high in the first year, right? You probably know the averages of like when relationships fell apart, but like, why do couples grow distant?
There's many reasons. Sometimes it's just the foundations. When I'm talking to folks, like, how did you first come together? We go back onto like more of the dating app type of thing. They met maybe through text messages, maybe they were geographically in different counties, countries. And so the foundations of getting together is rushed, or it's not that full, like you were just sharing, like how you and your husband, like you see each other, they have a bad moment, you see their bad moment, you have these deep conversations, they have a great moment, you experience it. Not everyone gets to have that, it requires that be part of their relationship dating process. And so if you haven't had good solid time together beyond just the dating, and you're jumping into committed relationship or into marriage, then some of the basics, like how do you have difficult conversations? I think you were talking about that. How do you get down in the dirt and resolve something? And so many times couples lack these experience, not because they don't want to, they're not running away from it, but they lack the experience and the practice. And so you hurt my feelings. Maybe I go back to my strategy of I'm going to shut down and hang on to it. And I'm real quiet. I don't say anything. You don't know that I'm upset. And it goes under the rug. And so that is one of the ways that couples grow distance.
Do women and men, is it very individualized in how people respond to conflicts in relationships? Or do women particularly do one thing more than men, or?
Oh no, us women are little firecrackers sometimes. They're very much surprised. I had a gentleman and a wife, and so he's a big burly guy, and she was a little petite, maybe 4 foot, kind of gymnastics up. And in the course of them getting honest, we found out that he was trying to stop the conflicts, and he would even try to go out the front door or out the back door or go to another room. And she was following him to the point that he started to try to go out a window that wasn't big enough for him to go, but he was trying to get away without hurting things. And she's like in the window doing this little ninja thing type of thing. So there are no stereotypes. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding however you show up in the conflict, it's okay. Let's normalize it. We can just, with the right strategies, how to take time out, how to listen better, to get curious, how to really make sure the two of you are fighting about the same thing. That's a big problem. Couples go away, they come back and they fight again. We can't resolve anything. Well, one was talking about, this food stuck in the pan, left on the stove overnight. And the other one was talking about maybe that there wasn't enough clean dish rags. It's interesting what people miss in that conflict. So, yeah, so no.
Yeah. So talking about conflict resolution, what's your advice for couples who have difficulty with, we're constantly fighting, we're constantly bickering. Like, how would you counsel a couple with kind of like basic conflict resolution?
Okay, wonderful. I love it. Understand that however you're showing up is absolutely okay, but we need to have some rules, some ground rules. First thing is you need to have the ability to have a timeout. So the two of you have to agree. It's okay to go to bed angry. In fact, it's really, really healthy to go to bed angry if that's what needs to happen. So you need to have a timeout. My folks get to choose a code word, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's all not in front of the kids, not in front of the dogs. That's one of the things that we want them to do. When a basic ground rule is when you go out, you take the break, you just write down what you thought you were fighting about. And that's really, really important, because when the adrenaline and all the hormones start closing down and the primitive part of our brain picks up with our thinking part, oftentimes we forget even what triggered the fight. And then we look at coming together at a later time, letting each person calm down. And then we have really good, healthy conflict conversations with the ability to throw another time out in the process as well. So it's it's agreements ahead of time. I mean, there's so many different, there's other aspects of understanding maybe how I'm leading in a conflict that might be, or a potential fight that triggers you or triggers my spouse. And so that then I start to do personal work, but each person can make a huge change in that dynamic. It doesn't take both of you. And that's one of the other things, is that it's ideal if both people are on board, but maybe you're the only one that's really willing at that moment to make some changes or get out of your comfort zone. And that's a good place to start. The power of one.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing you said was, kind of, I want to take this time out, maybe not in front of the kids. Is it good for parents to be able to resolve conflicts in front of their kids and kind of model that behavior? Or is it always best not done? Like, I'm very interested in just kind of your thoughts, like from a family perspective, because I think that sometimes the way we show up in relationships is watching our parents. I mean, I remember watching my parents get into some really nasty fights, when I was younger. Yeah.
Okay, right. And that makes a big impact on us as kids. That's right. The other side of the impact is that if we never see our parents have a fight, or we don't see some sort of resolution or follow up, when we grow up and have our own conflicts, we don't even understand that that's maybe right or correct, or we don't have anything to gauge it. But it tends to unnerve the relationship, like not in front of the kids at all, ever. I guess to answer your original question, like, is it okay to fight in front of the kids? Yes, I think it is. I think it's okay to have that conflict kind of difficulty. But when it's starting to escalate and it's not a conflict conversation, but we're having a big argument and adrenaline's hit and we have shifted back into the, the more non-logical thinking part of our brain. We really need to, like, if we can, like, hey, let's just take a break and let's talk about it a little bit. That is really effective conflict conversation information for your kids to see. They just saw mom and dad get really, really upset. And what do? They took a timeout, just like they tell us to do when we're fighting over our Hot Wheels or the PlayStation or whatever, Xbox type of thing. So we can set some good foundational things in place.
That's amazing. My husband and I have done a lot of work in our relationship through some of our mentors and things like that. And I think it's funny sometimes when an argument starts just about the facts and then it escalates into what we call like emotion and drama. And so sometimes we find we have to like almost call each other out, like, okay, no emotion, no drama. Let's get back to the facts, whatever we're like arguing about.
Right.
Because it's like, I mean, it's like,
yeah,
you want to win. You want to be right.
Absolutely. And that energy is also maybe not coming just from the moment that the facts are disagreeing. It may be coming from other times, but yes, we are in there. We're into the again, the emotion of the fight and not the end goal. What is my end goal? My end goal is to share my facts, perhaps my preferences, not necessarily emotions, and get us back aligned. And I don't know, maybe if you see it, but I see more fights coming from the small stuff. It's the big stuff. People don't seem to fight. Oh my gosh, quick, there's this huge flood that's come through the house. We can triage, do everything we need to do. But it's the little stuff, like you put the toilet paper roll, literally, they put the toilet paper roll on the wrong way. It's game on. In fact, I have some very smart people that tell me what to the last inch, how much she would save on toilet paper if it went this way versus that way.
Wow.
Top for bottom.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So when it comes to relationships, when we kind of talked about finding a partner, it made me think about like time as a variable. There's all these new shows like whatever, 60 Day Fiance, or my kids started watching some show on Netflix like this, what was it called? It's real hot on Netflix. Anyway, where the people are behind a wall and you just talk to them, right? You've never even seen them face to face. Then you're
that's
supposed
like the Bachelor
propose.
game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love is Blind. Love is Blind.
Oh,
That's what it's
okay.
called.
All right. I love that. That's an interesting one.
I mean, it's an interesting concept, right? Because these people have never seen each other, but they're sitting there having these like deep, meaningful conversations. Do you think that time is a variable when it comes to having, a good, meaningful marriage or relationship? Like, do you think that can be accomplished in that amount of time? Or, is there amount of time that you need to kind of test drive the car, I guess?
Okay. Well, maybe have seen in some of our past generations, there was speed dating, so to speak. I think World War I, World War II, even Vietnam, we saw a lot of couples very quickly coming together in a state of urgency. And we still see them celebrating their 50, 60, 70 year. So I think for the right folks with the right mindset, that speed coming together is good, huge, works for folks. There's also like a tolerance that needs to be for whatever, whether you do the speed sprint or you take the longer courtship based on what other people or you think is right. There's a tolerance and there's an acceptance for the person. I think that's a bigger overriding arch. The person that you're coming together and saying I do, there's a reason why you fell in love with them. There's a reason why you were attracted to them. They aren't perfect, you aren't perfect. And so there's how do we tolerate, enjoy, and even celebrate some of our differences rather than attack and try to get them over to your side or my side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I had a friend literally text this week and say that he was signing divorce papers. Him and his wife had been together for many years and there was nothing, crazy that happened, but basically they just decided they're more best friends and not husband and wife material, which if I had to read between the lines, basically said that there's no intimacy, because I guess
Mm-hmm.
that would be my definition, is a
Sure.
sexual relationship.
Yeah.
So I see women all the time, all the time.
Mhm.
And it tends to happen at different periods of their life. And we can dive into those as we go on. But
Absolutely.
what role does intimacy play in relationships, and why do people lose it?
That's interesting. Why do we lose it? Well, I think that we show up doing what we think is the right thing to do. So as women, and we step into the dating and then the engagement and the marriage, and it's fun. The hormones are running well. It's part of what we maybe in our mindset know this is part of what a successful marriage or relationship is, without even realizing. I have folks that they step into like the altar and they say I do, and there's a different brain that switches on. We would talk about it later on, and there's certain roles and responsibilities. And so I believe that at some point in time, we're not aware of what are the messages that we're going to be doing. But early relationships are fun, and they tend to be fun, and we tend to have more free time. And as we add more moving parts, children, pets, at least for me personally, we added a house, and then we had our own businesses, and then you put a pool in, you got to have a pool, you got to have something to clean the pool, you got a lawn, you got some, so we have all these moving parts. We unknowingly spend less time just sort of hanging out with one another. So intimacy really does start in the brain, and then it moves through the body. And so I believe that a lot of my couples lose that intimacy because of stress, because of the life transitions that they didn't know were happening, because they feel like they're supposed to be focused on their career instead of maybe temping that a little bit, and keeping the bond with their partner or their spouse stronger. The stress of, we have kids, our kids then bump up as a priority. I don't know about you, but our daughters, we hung the moon on them, we still do, but that shifts a lot of energy off of the couple and onto other responsibilities and things. Then you add in illnesses and PMS and all sorts of fun stuff, pregnancy, postpartum, depression, menopause. And pretty soon you've done a really good job, as I think as your friend said, being friends, being teammates, but you have lost that energy from the early years. And I think I know successful couples are able to manage that either by keeping that spark and that connection, the interest for one another, the curiosity for one another alive, or they've been able to realize there's this gap before they've given up on the relationship, given up on the marriage, and they've worked on reconnecting. And it can be fun. It's not hard. You guys didn't know each other before. If there's been that passionate flame, you can find it again. Just takes a little energy and effort.
That's so interesting. Some of the things you said, like you buy the house, then we bought a dog, then we bought a second dog, then we had 3 kids. Like, it's like everything you were saying, I could just see my life like before my eyes, like as it got built. And my husband and I joke all the time. Some days at the end of the day, we look at each other and we're like, what did we do before we had all of this? We're like, we didn't realize at the time, like how much freedom and like free time we
Oh,
had to
sure.
like explore our relationship, it was like,
Oh, yeah. Even like when you're in an apartment, you don't have a lawn to mow or type of things. You don't have those type of things. So yeah, all of these accomplishments that we take pride in and are great. I mean, I'm not saying don't do them, but each of those things do take a toll, like positive stress versus kind of the negative stress. You have a baby, it's a positive stress, but it's still an impact on the couple and on yourself personally. So yeah, we added in like goats, horses, rats, you name it. So I yeah. And so it is interesting, and it's okay wherever. I went to school. Wherever you find yourself on the journey, even like your friend that says we're filing divorce papers and things. There's a high probability, there's a high chance that if you put a pin drop in it and you stop a little bit, you can make progress and reconnect and reclaim your relationship or your marriage. It'll just be a little bit different than when you were, squeaky green bean and going like, oh, we're just married. It's different, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful relationship, beautiful marriage.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about parenthood. I'm a mom. I've got 3 girls, 7, 9, and 11. I was just talking to another
Ooh.
mom tonight because we hit tonight. Every single night is like this: basketball practice, softball practice, all these things. And, a lot of our friends are kind of like in this time of life where you're just like a
Mhm.
slave to your children as like an Uber driver of
Yes,
like,
you are. It's your
go here and go
chauffeur.
there. And she was, we were talking about this. She said, "Who's your guest tonight on the podcast?" And we started, chatting about it. And I'm like, "What questions, should we
Mhm.
talk about?" And she was saying that, she knows somebody who, after they had children, they don't even sleep in the same bedroom anymore. Like the mom sleeps with one of the kids. And she basically
Mhm.
told her husband, like, when they move out of the house, we'll sleep in the same bedroom together. Um,
Whoa.
Let's talk about, yeah, that was like, whoa, that's like another level of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
commitment to motherhood, sacrifice of the marriage.
I need
But
to whisper in her ear just a little bit.
we'll tell her where your coaching is available at the end.
Okay.
Um, but what do you like? How do you reignite your relationship again when you're just stuck in these years of just, it's all your kids this and kids
Mhm.
that, and talking about your kids and your kids sports, and it just seems
Yeah,
like working on your relationship and intimacy, especially for women, I feel like, because that's the people I talk to all day,
yeah,
they just feel like
yeah.
it's like one more thing on their list.
Yes, that's like one of the, I want to say one of the big, I want to say complaints, like, oh, great, another thing on my to-do list. Like, why don't you make
Mm,
him eat type of thing? And so we view it as it is a heavier load. It feels like a heavy load, a work type thing. I think the first thing I would suggest is that we don't try to just immediately reignite it in the bedroom. I don't think that works effectively. In fact, it tends to be like, oh, see, that's all you want me for. Just one more chore. In fact, and sometimes I chat with couples and I'll talk to them about intimacy and I'll ask them, do you know about the woman's list? And he says, what do you mean? What's in her head? And he says, what do you
mm,
mean? And I said, and they're starting to smile. I said, so you want to be a little intimate now? And I said, well, there's laundry that's in the wash machine that needs to go into the dryer because the dryer stuff has to be dry for tomorrow. And the kids' lunch hasn't been made and this hasn't been made. And they're like, is that going on? And she's like, yeah, yeah. I said, and then we got to think about what we get. And so there's all these things that go into, oh, understandably, a woman's mind when they're managing the things that maybe we don't even share. So what's a bit overarching is that there's a lot of work. There seems to be a lot of work on the couple's minds, their shoulders. You were chauffeuring 3, 7, 9, and 11, I think you said. That's a lot of driving folks
yeah, 7,
around.
9, and 11.
Okay, so I think we've got to reintroduce fun because as we talked about a little bit earlier, the early days were fun. There was less responsibilities. We could come and go. We had we had a brain that could complete sentences on their own, and we had interests outside of, do they all have their shoes, the cleats? Do they have the clean socks? Did anybody, am I in charge of the juice boxes this time? I mean, we start talking, you know,
It's like
down
you're
those.
my brain speaking out loud right now.
Okay. So we have a lot of, the check boxes. And so that wasn't part of the early days, early relationship. So we understand that we're going to be starting with more on our plate and more going. So I really work with couples and go back, let's say, get the kids to bed. If you can, put them on the swing set in the backyard. If that's what you can do, that's good. And the two of you get a notebook and start, what did we do for fun? Do you remember what we did for fun? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Oh, we liked movies. Okay, yeah, type of thing. And we start adding those back to a list because we're going to start working on putting laughter and fun and lightness. We're going to work on adding little bits of extra, a little bit of a nap, those type of things. And it starts in the head, gets in the heart, and then it goes through into our body. So then you can move into the bedroom, and it may be intimacy changes and is different based on, and I know it does, based on how many kids you have, what ages they are, if any of them have any special needs or illnesses or things. And then we get to us. Where are we in that post-kid transition, maybe midlife? But I had one couple and they came to me very much like everything's doom and gloom. And we were talking and so I have folks tell me about the early days. And that's where even a great conversation started with your spouse, your partner, saying, what do you remember most? What do you like most about the early days? And when people tell the stories, their faces will tell you. They get happy, they smile, they'll relax. And this particular couple, music was huge. That's where they did so many of their dates. That's where so many times they connected. They would go to little clubs or they would just stop in music venues along the way. And so it's okay. So at your house now, I said, so what music stations do you play? And there was crickets. There was zero. Even Alexa and Google weren't playing music. They had, and I said, so what if we introduce music back into the house? And so that's what they started doing. They get up in the morning, they played music. They, cook in the kitchen, they played music. They came home, they put on music. And within just a few weeks, I mean, it was amazing transformation. They were laughing, they were sitting next to each other, they were going on music dates. But they said, even if we can't get away, we're just doing our little dances in the kitchen. And it's just so much fun, even though chopping lettuce, watching the knives, we're having fun again. And I think that is the biggest aphrodisiac to real intimacy, is having fun and reconnecting in that with yourself and then your partner, your spouse.
I love that. I love that. That's such great advice. Okay, so let's take this back to the bedroom because I was reading some study recently. A sexless marriage. They defined it as having sex less than once per month, so like less than 12 times a year. And I take care of these patients. These women are like, I mean, my marriage is fine. I love my husband. I'm attracted to him, but we just don't have sex as often as he wants to have it. How can you reignite the bedroom situation for people? Where do people fall apart when it comes to that physical, sexual intimacy?
But I think one is, don't listen to all the facts that come on the news, kind of thing.
Turn off the news.
Yeah, turn off the news, mute it, re-type it, because even though there are statistics out there, everybody has a different appetite, right? Everybody comes preloaded with a certain level of sensuality and sexuality. And then we put two people together, and one may want it more and one may want it less. And not all men want it more than women. And that's okay.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for folks that are realizing there's a disconnect wherever it is in that continuum, then we want to ease into that and change. One thing is change expectation that every time I go into the bedroom, you're going to want something and I'm not going to want something. So it gets to be having some candid conversations. I do have some couples that do schedule it. They really do set aside a night or a day, a time, and they think this is the day that we're going to do something. And that allows them both mentally to prepare for it, as well as starting to woo or seduce or be kind or flirty with their partner to set the pace and set the mood. The other part is that maybe, my body's changed and I'm not interested as much. So not everything that we used to do maybe needs to stay on the table now at this age and stage. or maybe we switch things up. It means, having some open conversations. The important thing, I think, is turning off the television. Not, you get up in the morning, whether it's the intimacy night or not, it's a sex night or not, is being nice and friendly and flirty and complimentary to your spouse. Doing that throughout the week does start to set the change, does start to have them look at you differently. The other big thing that I see is that many times as we've been with someone for a while, we stop the manners and we stop taking care of ourselves. When we're getting ready to go on the date, we were like checking with this, and we put clean clothes on, we brushed our teeth, used deodorant even, type of thing. And sometimes just by the familiarity and that we're with each other, we stop going the extra mile. We have that same raggedy t-shirt on that we are willing to go out to dinner with, that we use to mow the lawn with, and that doesn't get to be sexy. So it's about how we're showing up on a daily basis and how we're treating our partners. That really does get us back into the bedroom.
Yeah, there's just nothing better than somebody that just feels, confident in the way they, look and feel, and like that is very attractive, and in your partner. And I resonate with a lot of the things you're saying. I see women who have babies and their body changes, and they're busy, so they just let themselves, go. They're like, I got to take care of all these other humans, and they go down, to the bottom of the list.
Right. Yeah. They kind of like, even like with the COVID, where with people working from home, they're partially dressed, or they don't even get out of their pajamas type of thing, because why bother? No one's going to see me. And think, oh, he knows the baby, I'm nursing and the baby spit up on me, so we don't change our t-shirt. And I get that, but I also get the other side of it, is that it's a message to ourselves that we don't care enough about ourselves to put on the fresh shirt, and we don't care enough about our husband or our spouse, and vice versa. They're not shaven. They're not.
I mean, I'm somebody that like lives in workout pants and scrubs probably 95% of my life. So, but there's something different when you like get ready and you like put on a new outfit and you put on some high heels. Like I walk differently, I carry myself differently. Like there's just something about it. I know it seems like, oh, like I gotta get ready, I gotta like do this, but it does like change your demeanor.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, even if that's your comfort clothes, the scrubs and stuff like that, if you're coming in from being at work and you wear scrubs, and you come rolling into the kitchen and you're wearing the same scrubs, and you do all this chauffeuring and you're wearing the same scrubs, and you come, hey honey, how are you? That's
Oh, my husband finds the scrubs very sexy. I'm like,
that's good,
dude, I'm in scrubs, like, come on.
But you must wear your scrubs well then. How's that?
Yeah. Well, he was a police officer for 15 years, but I didn't get to see him in his uniform all that often. But the times that I did, I mean, I won't lie, like a man in a uniform, it looks good.
I love it. I love it. So he would not have a problem with you with showing up in scrubs. It's your comfort zone, and that's fine. And so
yeah. And honestly, the same goes for my workout clothes. He's like, I love when you're like sweaty from the gym. It's just funny, like what our ideas of like what is sexy. And it's of course brought up lots of like very interesting conversations. Even, we've been together almost 20 years and married for 15 this next year. But like we're still, learning things about each other. And that's what keeps it exciting. Okay, so we've talked about people finding a partner, getting married, having kids. Let's talk about menopause.
Yes.
We have a large portion of our population is making this menopausal transition. This is like a new time in their life and a new time in their relationship. Let's talk about some of the problems that women experience in their relationships going through menopause.
Oh, wow. Yes, that's a big one. And there's somehow like, so many folks I talk to, there's a stigma, like I'm in menopause. Like Harry or menopause? Harry, like it's like, no, there's some kind of stigma like you're aging or something wrong. I know I've talked to lots and lots of folks. So they said, actually, I was kind of excited, like I was going to save money, no more tampons, no more periods. I said, I know you can wear endless white. You can break the design curve, like, oh, it's December and you're wearing white. I know, I can. But there's the physiological actual stuff is our brains can get fuzzy. We can get that cloud, very similar to like when we were pregnant. The weight, the bloating, the hot flashes. Sometimes the hot flashes are more than anyone ever experienced when they were pregnant, if they were pregnant, drenching the beds, the irritability, the tears. I mean, there's so much. And our sweethearts, they don't know what it's like to be sitting there just nicely and all of a sudden like, oh, so hot in here, I got, and I think they don't know. Or they could be sitting there talking and like, love the tacos tonight, Liz. And all of a sudden I'm in tears. Like, did I not say something right? Like, should have hated the tacos, or so they get just as confused, and they're sitting on the outside, and most really, really try to show up well, and we don't know. So I think one of the biggest thing is it's okay to be be perimenopause, be menopausal. It's okay to say you don't know. If seeking help, like working with you and saying, look, what are my options? Where am I? There's so much on the hype and market of take this supplement, don't take this, or have the hormone replacement therapy, and no one thing fits each situation. I had a woman that brilliant, very successful CFO and things I was working with, and she's been managing everything. Second marriage, doing really, knew it before, but second marriage doing really well. And she says, I figured out how to manage the brain fog. I have the things. She says, but the sex now. She said, I don't want to say anything to him, but now it hurts. And so we just talked. He said, tell me how it goes. How do you get started? What do you do? What do you do? Well, what she had not realized from physiological point is it's going to take her perhaps longer for all the necessary parts to get pulled up, get that cervix back, and this ready, let alone the lubrication and feeling comfortable about that. So I asked her about, what other things that she used for lubricants or things like, well, nothing, we never had to. And so here's a person that's had a very healthy, a vibrant, professional, personal, intimate life. And for the first time, she's experiencing a situation that she was just going to muscle through, basically. And so I gave her a few little, slow the train down, basically, and use the lubricant, and I think you'll be just fine. And she came back with a very nice smile on her face. But I said, but you got to share it with your husband. He needs to know, so that you can both be on the same track, and he doesn't have to be confused. So that's one of the big things that people feel like. It doesn't have to stay that way. I guess she had a problem. She was handling it without any help. She confided in me, got some right information, and life went on. And so menopause didn't interrupt her mojo. She was able to keep going. And so I think that is a huge, huge one.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan in this situation of vaginal estrogen replacement therapy. There are so many women that just think this is just normal and I'll power through it, just like you're saying, like they've been suffering for so long. They don't talk to their partners about it, let alone their doctors sometimes, unless we specifically ask.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's just, although it's normal physiologic change, there are really good, safe and effective solutions for it. So anybody listening, anybody listening too, that's interested in hearing like a whole podcast on it, go listen to the episode I did with Kelly Casperson. So
I'm going to listen to that one.
A shout out to Kelly. She just put out a brand new book called Stop Shooting All Over Yourself. And it's all about Yeah, it's all about sex and intimacy. She's a urologist, and
Okay.
I'm a gynecologist. So we had this great episode talking about all things vaginas and vulvas and all those things.
You will
So
love, I have a pelvic floor specialist. She's a physical therapist that specializes in
yeah,
that. And that's another, big thing for ladies, especially here, like in the US, that isn't necessarily what follows after post-birth or hysterectomies or anything like that, where we get
yeah.
some physical training around that aspect too. So
I'm a huge fan of pelvic PT for a variety of reasons. And
mhm,
you're right. I wish we utilized it more, especially during pregnancy and postpartum. But I
mhm,
always explain it to my patients. I'm like, I want you to go see this person, and this is what they're going to do. And I said, just like if you had a shoulder injury and they would rehab
mhm,
your shoulder injury, or you had surgery on your shoulder and they would
yeah.
rehab it and get it stronger, it's the exact same thing. You have muscles, you have connective tissue, and I show them the diagrams, but people are always like mind blown. They're like, wait, like a physical therapist for my vagina? Like I'm, I'm
Yeah,
confused.
and it's not just the Kegels, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
It's Kegels on steroids, I guess, is
such an important thing.
yeah.
Okay, so I want to move on to the semen analysis. And
Oh, I'd love to hear this. Okay.
yeah, you guys, I pulled this study that was recent to this year, and it is about the orgasm gap. So they did a study at Rutgers, and they found that men and women that have more frequent orgasms in their relationship want and expect more orgasms. And the opposite happened when people climax less often. So if there was less orgasms, then they desired less. And if there's more, they desired more. And so the study was published in a journal called Sex Roles, and it examined the orgasm gap, which is a well established phenomenon in which men are basically having substantially more orgasms than women in heterosexual relationships. And because women tend to have fewer orgasms than men, these findings explain why women put less emphasis on the importance of their orgasm when it comes to sexual satisfaction compared to their male counterparts. And this cycle of inequality likely repeats itself. That's what they basically found in the study, is that if it's not happening, it continues to not happen. And the researchers surveyed 104 sexually active couples about how much they orgasm, the ideal amount that they'd like to, how often they expect people should, and they found a major gap in these relationships. This was 104
Mhm.
couples, and consistently found men were having more orgasms than women. And so I just think this is an interesting, study to share about this kind of like sexual pleasure disparity. I
Mhm.
think it comes back to a lot of things we've talked about, in this podcast. Like, why are women? I think some of it comes from, as a women's health specialist, I think some of it comes from women not understanding how their own body works, and then
Okay.
not understanding how to communicate that. Maybe you have some insight to this. Like, why is it so hard to ask for, why does this exist? Like, what is the communication problem in couples? Like, why this exists?
It's interesting for something that being such an intimate couple, when you start talking about body parts or preferences, even a lot of the old stigmas and the old roles come in place. I still meet with women that have that mind shift that once they had children, then the sexual part of their relationship wasn't necessary. And so as we explore that, they start to realize that some old message popped in or cultural stuff popped in, and that they can be a parent and be a mom and still be sexy and frisky and intimate with the husband. So I think one of it is like, if you can go back to some of the foundations in a playful way, start exploring what makes you feel good in a non genital touching area. Go back to the early days, do the massages, do the touches, um, be open to be experimenting. And in that moment, um, ask, maybe ask questions of your spouse. Can you do this? Can you do that? It be even empowering the men to start going, oh, wait, they may not be having as much fun as I am. So how do I get more considerate and curious about what they need? Practice saying some of those words that you stumble over, like, I don't want to say clitoris because that might be, okay. How do we get
Yeah.
comfortable with saying the words and describing the pleasure that's in our world. But I think that's a really, really interesting study. I'm going to have to read
Yeah.
that again.
I mean, I had back to Dr. Casperson. Actually, she,
Uh-huh.
in her book, she's like, of course you don't desire sexual intimacy because you're not even having good sex. Like, why would you desire something that's like not even good, you know? So it's like
You're
figuring
right.
out like how to get back into, the intimate part of the relationship that like you enjoy and your
Hmm.
partner enjoys and that you enjoy together. And because it is, I mean, it's highlighted in the study that it's just like lopsided relationships. And what's funny is I shared this study one time on my social media and had a homosexual female reach out to me. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no. They might have said that's the heterosexual couple. She's like, that happens in homosexual couples too. And she's like, she's like, some women do not understand their bodies. Like it's not, you
Hmm.
can't just expect that because a woman understands it, that another woman understands it. It's like, so that was like really interesting insight for her to share with me. So,
I
okay, you
love
guys.
that.
Well, yeah, yeah. Okay, Dr. Liz, tell people how to find you. I know you do this Reignite VIP couples coaching program. So tell people how they can find your work or how they may work with you.
Oh, wonderful. You can reach me on my website, which is drlizjenkins.com, or follow me on Facebook, which is again Dr. Liz Jenkins. I think we'll have some links that I can also share with you as well. But I have the Reignite. I also have a 6-week sprint that I'm working with couples. So it's a smart couples restart sprint, and so we can jumpstart that. My Instagram is again, it's Dr. _Liz_Jenkins. And I'd love to have you join me, follow my YouTube. Uh, so thank you very much for having me here. I could keep talking and asking more questions on that study with you.
Yeah, we'll have to do another one. It's just like it's fascinating stuff, and it of course like it almost helps my marriage because I come home and get to talk about these topics that people
Mhm.
like bring up every day. But like in most people's these like my kids, you guys, I'm just telling you right now, they're growing up with a gynecologist for a mother. Our dinner table conversations are probably not everybody else's dinner table conversations.
I can see
Oh, my
why
poor
your
children.
husband
Yeah.
enjoys your scrubs or your workout clothes,
Yeah.
because the topics you bring really great new stuff to the table to talk about as well. That's nice.
Yeah. So, well, this has been so wonderful, Dr. Liz. Thank you for sharing your insight
Thank
and
you.
expertise with everybody. I really, truly appreciate it. And thanks to you guys all for listening. If you think somebody would find this episode helpful, please share it with people. You're helping us get these messages to the people that need to hear them. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Did you guys love that last episode of the Fit and Fabulous podcast? Well, of course you did. And I want to keep bringing you the most amazing content from the most incredible people. And you can help me by subscribing to the Dr. Fit and Fabulous channel. You guys know where the button is. Just click it. It's the doctor's orders.